Hello, I'm Andy Gibson. I'm a Principal Security Solutions Engineer at Microsoft, and today I'm excited to talk to you about the power of a unified security operations platform. In our rapidly evolving digital landscape, the need for a robust and integrated security solution has never been more critical. Our presentation today, entitled Simplify, Strengthen, Secure, will explore how a unified security operations platform can enhance your organization's digital security posture. So I'll start by discussing the key findings from a CISA Red Team report, which highlights the challenges that large enterprise security teams face in detecting and responding to threats. We'll then take a look at a quote from John Lambert that addresses a mindset challenge that I believe is deeply entrenched in our industry. We'll then delve into the anatomy of a ransomware attack, emphasizing the need for integration and consolidation of security tools. And finally, we'll wrap things up by discussing the importance of integration in discovering and stopping multi-stage attacks and how a unified security operations platform can provide an optimized analyst experience, targeted assistance, and automated protection and remediation. By the end of this presentation, you should have a deeper understanding of how a unified security operations platform can simplify, strengthen, and secure your organization's digital landscape. Let's get started. So back in 2023, CISA published an article that they actively amplified on social media platforms, including LinkedIn and Twitter, entitled CISA Red Team Shares Key Findings to Improve Monitoring and Hardening of Networks. And in this article, they discuss a red team assessment that was conducted at the request of a large critical infrastructure organization. Now, they don't tell us who this organization was, but based on the geographically separated sites reference, I'm thinking an energy service provider, perhaps a telco, maybe FEMA, but ultimately it doesn't really matter who the target was, because it appears that CISA published this article to shine a light on what they perceive to be systematic cyber defense deficits across the federal landscape, as this really could be used as a blueprint for breaching federal organizations. So CISA's approach, outlined in incredible technical detail, was very realistic and representative of what we see time and time again. A classic credential theft, lateral movement, and privilege escalation campaign that led to complete ownership of the target's Active Directory and possibly an express lane to their cloud assets. The team uncovered many configuration inconsistencies as well as overprivileged accounts present in the environment. The outbrief, however, contains a particularly alarming finding. Despite having a mature cyber posture, the organization did not detect the red team's activity throughout the assessment, including when the team attempted to trigger a security response. So as this exercise wrapped up, CISA's red team was essentially banging on pots and pans to trigger an incident response that never came. And why is that? Why was the target, who was presumably equipped with a broad range of sophisticated security tools, unable to detect this noisy intrusion? Defenders think in lists and attackers think in graphs. As long as this is true, attackers win. I believe this quote from Microsoft security fellow John Lambert that dates back to 2015 really captures the reason why the target in the CISA Red Team exercise did not detect the team's activities. When I first read this quote, I didn't really understand the point that John was making, so I did a little bit of reading. And I think that some added context and wordsmithing can help the layman understand what John meant. If we add some additional language here to the quote, it might become a little clearer. Defenders think in terms of security domains, and attackers think across security domains. In the context of cybersecurity, a security domain refers to a distinct area or boundary within an organization's IT environment where a common security policy is applied and enforced. And each domain typically has its own defensive security solution in place. So for the sake of today's discussion, let's focus on 5 specific security domains: email, endpoints, identities, cloud apps, and data. And each of those domains typically falls under the SOC scope of responsibility. The SOC is responsible for securing each domain via compliance assessments, platform maintenance, risk reviews, and operating and maintaining the domain-specific security solutions. The email domain focuses on protecting email communications from malicious activities such as phishing, spam, and improper access. Some of the vendors that have solutions in this space include Proofpoint, Mimecast, Darktrace, Trend Micro, and Microsoft. The endpoints domain focuses on securing any devices that connect to the corporate network. That can include laptops, PCs, tablets, mobile devices, servers, virtual machines, and even IoT devices, both on-prem and in the cloud. This domain is commonly protected by an endpoint detection and response, or EDR, solutions from vendors like CrowdStrike, Trellix, Cisco, Palo Alto, and Microsoft. The identities domain focuses on securing user and workload identities across the organization. This can include employees, contractors, service accounts, and applications, whether they're accessing resources on-prem or in the cloud. Protecting identities is especially critical because they're often the primary target for attackers. This domain is commonly safeguarded by identity and access management solutions, including tools for authentication, authorization, conditional access, and identity threat detection. Some of the vendors that have solutions in this space include BeyondTrust, Okta, LogRhythm, SecureOnyx, Splunk, Exabeam, CrowdStrike, and Microsoft. The Cloud Apps domain focuses on securing the use of software as a service, or SaaS, solutions and cloud-hosted applications across the organization. This includes productivity tools, collaboration platforms, and third-party services that users access daily. Risks in this domain include shadow IT, data leakage, and app misconfigurations. Cloud access security brokers, or CASB, solutions and app governance tools are commonly used to monitor usage, enforce policies, and detect threats. Some CASB vendors include SkyHigh Security, Forcepoint, Cisco, Microsoft, Zscaler, and Palo Alto. The data domain centers on protecting sensitive and business-critical information wherever it resides, on devices, in the cloud, or in transit. This includes structured and unstructured data such as documents, emails, databases, and intellectual property. Data protection strategies often involve classification, labeling, encryption, and loss prevention technologies to ensure data is only accessible to authorized users and systems. Defensive solutions in this domain are provided by vendors like Digital Guardian, CipherTrust, Symantec, Forcepoint, Zscaler, Trellix, Cohesity, and Microsoft. And together, these domains and their corresponding solutions represent the list that John Lambert was referring to. Security analysts actively monitor alerts for each domain. Unfortunately, modern attacks often span across security domains. They may start with a malicious email, move on to an identity, and then over to SaaS applications. Attackers, on the other hand, are looking across the domains and mapping the relationships between vulnerable entities. This is the graph that John mentions. Let's take a look at a basic ransomware attack pattern layered over this visualization of the various security domains that we've been talking about. These attacks often begin with a phishing campaign that may include a malicious attachment or a link to a malicious website. In either scenario, the unsuspecting end user executes the payload and the attack moves from the email domain and into the endpoint domain. So, for example, the attack moves from the protection provided by Proofpoint over to the protection provided by CrowdStrike. The executed payload allows the attacker to establish command and control of the endpoint, where they immediately work to compromise the logged on user's credentials. This can be done via various techniques, including brute force or credential harvesting. Now the attack has moved into the identities domain. The attacker uses the stolen credential to impersonate an end user and conduct reconnaissance and collect configuration data. They are also working to find and compromise privileged identities. This phase is often referred to as lateral movement and privilege escalation, with the ultimate goal of being to find a domain admin credential and establish domain dominance. From here, they have the ability to move into the cloud apps domain, where they attempt to exfiltrate sensitive data from SaaS applications. The next phase is what keeps me up at night. From this domain dominance position, they can also move into the data domain, where they work to disable and delete backups, followed up by the mass encryption of a target's files and other data in hopes of securing a large ransom payoff. So each compromised entity in this campaign represents a point on the attacker's graph. And each domain security solution should generate an alert. So for example, if the organization is using Proofpoint, there may be a phishing related alert generated. And the same should be true for other security tools as the attacker moves towards their objective. Alerts may be generated by each discrete domain security tool. So this is what a complex multi-stage attack looks like to organizations that are leveraging siloed security solutions. A series of individual alerts that when taken out of context, paint an incomplete picture. And this is probably how the target of the CISA Red Team exercise failed to notice the team's activities. By focusing on individual alerts from specific domain security tools, the big picture is too often overlooked. Think back to John Lambert's quote regarding lists and graphs. Security operators need an advanced analytics platform that can take the alerts from each security solution, in other words, lists of events, and graph their relationship to other alerts happening across the environment in real time, so that advanced multi-stage attacks that cross the security domains can be detected. This is where Microsoft's Unified Security Operations Platform is breaking new ground. Microsoft's security portfolio includes protection across an organization's digital estate. These solutions are all natively integrated. Signals from across the portfolio are collected and aggregated into a centralized platform that presents a unified view of all activity. Analysts no longer need to switch between multiple tool sets and consoles to view their organization's security posture. We then use advanced analytics that leverage Microsoft's vast threat intelligence library to recognize the patterns of malicious activity as they happen. Individual alerts are correlated into rich security incidents that can detect advanced complex attacks like the multi-stage ransomware attack that's on the screen. To re-emphasize, the integration of Microsoft Security Portfolio allows us to analyze alerts from across the security domains and correlate them into security incidents, all from a single unified dashboard. Integration is the key to discovering and stopping multi-stage attacks. Let's take a minute to discuss Microsoft's threat intelligence investments. When it comes to prevention, signals matter because you can't protect what you can't see. The large-scale data advantage is what Microsoft Security brings to the table. Microsoft brings the insight of over 80 terabytes worth of daily signals ingested and analyzed to know exactly what attackers are doing and empower you to protect yourself against these attacks. We couple that with the expertise of global threat intelligence, the monitoring of more than 300 threat groups, and the insight on attacker behaviors from more than 1 million customers and over 15,000 partners. So to wrap things up, Microsoft is unifying its security technologies to deliver a platform that's greater than the sum of its parts. The Microsoft Unified Security Operations Platform transforms how organizations approach cybersecurity, offering a single integrated view across domains with tools that work together natively out of the box. It delivers protection that begins well before a breach with proactive threat intelligence and posture management, and it combines the broad visibility of a SIEM with the deep real-time protection of an XDR, all enhanced by the power of generative AI to accelerate detection, investigation, and response. With Microsoft's unified platform, security teams can break down silos, reduce alert fatigue, and stay ahead of evolving threats, transforming security operations from a reactive posture to one of resilience. Thanks for listening.